Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's God, what is it? It's Thursday. It's May 17th, and it's about 1:30 in the afternoon. So, you've seen the title, you've seen the description, and so this is part one of my story. And I'm a little uncomfortable doing this. It's probably something I never thought I'd be doing, but enough people have asked, and I think I can do it in such a way that it will be helpful to you. And so you can see some of the key points along my life that have got me here, and hopefully can show you that, honestly, if this guy can do this and get here, I mean, anybody can do it. So hopefully everything I say is something that comes across as being helpful, and hopefully can show you that you can overcome some of this too. Or if you're in it or you're experiencing anything like it, that you can get through it, that is not a stumbling block. So I'm just going to jump right in, stop doing intro and just get to it. So this is part one. It's what I call the early years. It's from when I would say I'm about 5 years old till about when I got into my school. Which is a little bit different than I thought, but I think this is going to be long enough. So I'm going to take you from when I was a kid to when I got into to university, and then we'll go from there next time. So I just want to talk about kind of my life, my family, my home environment. If you've looked or watched any of my prior videos, you've seen that the environment you surround yourself in is critically important to me, and I believe drives your future and your current activities. So the one I grew up in was not a very healthy one, and so I'm going to tell you these stories. I'm going to kind of be instructive, I hope, but I do not want anybody to say, "Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Wow, that's not what this is about. This is not." I moved way beyond this stuff. I'm only bringing it up here to help you, I hope. So if you're stuck in any of this, you get to see it. It is not meant to engender any sympathy whatsoever. I've moved on. I'm good. But I want to tell you where I came from, so in case you're stuck there. So my family growing up, let's see. My dad was 50 years old when I was born, and he was 26 years older than my mom. And their marriage was a second marriage for both of them, and both of them hated it. It was a pretty terrible relationship, and that really did manifest itself in the home environment. It was just fighting every day, all day long. I mean, from the day I can have first memories to the day I drove away to college, it was just pretty much a living hell in the house. And I think some of that anger, some of that frustration with the relationship really ended up being misplaced onto myself and my brother. I have a brother who's about a year younger than I am, so he bore as much of this as I did, and not just a sob story for me. But so my mom's idea of discipline was whipping. She actually used to call it, come get your whipping, and she would take a belt and just kind of beat the shit out of us. And it was for really, it got to the point where it's just something you knew was going to happen. You just had to deal with it. So I knew every time a report card came home from school, no matter what it said, you'd get a beating. And we were pretty much straight A's, but if I had one B, that was the moment. I knew every time there was a parent-teacher conference, my mom's going to come home and there was going to be a beating, no matter what. It just was part of the deal. So if the teacher said, "Hey, Dave talks too much in class," or Dave's awfully social around the class environment, poof, there you go, you got a beating. So it was just pretty terrible, but it's, again, I mean, it's weird to bring it up now, but I've truly moved beyond it. But I want you to know, if you're currently in an environment like that, or if you came through an environment like that, you can move on. I'll tell you a good story. My mom one time, she used to give us these giant vitamin C pills. And as a kid, it was kind of hard to swallow them, so every now and then I'd hide them. And one day my mom found a pile of them in my drawer, and she mistaked them for drugs. So the same vitamin C pills she'd give me in the morning, she found that afternoon and beat me for taking drugs. Just kind of insane behavior now that I'm saying it out loud. And in the environment I was surrounded by in my own house was literally sentences like, "You'll never be that good. Who do you think you are? You think you're so much better than everyone else." And so I just, that's just an example of somebody, those closest to us sometimes pull us back. Another one that she liked was, you won't get into that college, and even if you do, you'll never be able to pay for it. So that was just, we steeped in that all the time. And then, you know, the coup de grace, the one that really broke my spirit or killed my relationship with my mom for life was, you know, one year when I was a little kid, I went off to a scout camp, and she had both my dogs put to sleep while I was gone. You know, that still hurts to say out loud. You know, you can't believe somebody would do that. But so that was you know, that may have been my greatest moment, because that was where I realized, you know, this world was for me to take control of and not rely on others. So, and then kind of the final insult with my mom was when Anne-Marie and I got married. My mom didn't choose to come to the wedding, so that kind of gives you a good summary. What is that? A couple-minute summary of what my home life was like as I grew up and through my formative years. So I just want to stop there for a minute. We're 6 minutes in. I just want to say, why would I say all that to you? And so I just want to reiterate, a poor home, a tough childhood, those closest to you pulling you back down. These really are not excuses. For wherever you are in your life today, they cannot be excuses. I mean, it kind of sucks. It might have been a shitty start to life, but they should be used by you as a motivation to move on, to make things happen, to break your dependence on other people doing things for you. So that's how I took it, and that really takes me to the next part of my conversation with you, and that was, so what was my response to that environment? And so when I look back in those years, as I got ready to, you know, write these notes for you guys, I was always looking for something or activities to get me out of the house, to get me away from that environment. And so I was always on the move. I was always busy. I was joining. I was leading. I was making things happen. Just every day of every week of every year for years. That's all I was doing. And so the examples of the things that took me outside of my house were my church group, Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts. I was in the band for all my junior year and junior high school and 3 years of high school. I played the trumpet, if you care. I was first chair. Then I played baseball for many years, and then I ran cross country and track. So all those things took me out of the house. So most afternoons, evenings, weekends, I was out doing something. And I just, maybe it was self-protection. I didn't know that at the time, but I was always looking, always moving. And so I think that's, you know, that's germane to what you see me doing today with the company and the farm and my kids and my family and my yard and my racing. So I think that kind of fits. I think maybe that helps explain that. So that's just one way to deal with that kind of environment, is get out of it and do something positive with your time. And the other part I was always doing, I was always working. And so I just listed all those activities. The one I want to, you know, bring out and talk individually about is jobs. I was always taking a job. And I just wrote the list as I was getting ready for this. I took my first paying job at 11. Before that, it was mowing lawns and stuff like that, $5, $10 here. But my first paying job I took as a paper boy. Back in the old days, they used to, these Val packs you get in the mail and all that, or these little flyer newspapers that get in the mail, but they used to be delivered by somebody. And so we'd roll them up, and once or twice a week, we'd go deliver several hundred of them. I did that when I was 11, and then when I was 12, I was actually old enough to get hired by the Everett Herald. I grew up in Everett, Washington, 30 miles north of Seattle, and so I got a job as a paper boy. The old throw them over your, you know, wear that big yoke and walk down your, deliver your route. I did that from when I was 12 and 13, so for 3 years I was essentially a paper boy. And then on Saturdays during season, I'd be a strawberry picker. They'd pick us all up in a school bus and take us out to the fields, and we'd you get paid by the flat. And that was always on my weekends or my Saturdays. You know, strawberry season was only 6-7 weeks, but it was just something to get me out of the house. And let's see what's next. At 14, I got juiced in. I got hired as a dishwasher at a restaurant, a lot like a Denny's. It wasn't called Denny's, but it was a lot like that. And family friend was the restaurant manager, and she was looking for somebody to come wash dishes. So she kind of looked over the 16-year-old requirement and let me in at 14. And was a dishwasher for a couple of years. Let's see. And then yeah, I did that for like 14 to 17. So for those 3-4 years, I was a dishwasher and then a cook. And in fact, I got promoted to like a head cook, and I actually had the graveyard shift by myself. So I did a lot of 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. shifts, and all this kind of as a kid still. Took my first punch, and I'll tell you a good story for a minute. You know, my very first Sunday working there as a dishwasher, a bum had come in and was sitting with a family trying to have Sunday breakfast. So the rest of the staff said, "Dave, go ask this guy to leave." I walked up and said, "Sir, you know, I need to ask you to leave." And he stood up and cold cocked me, and you know, within an hour, my first hour, my first job, I was on my back. So, you know, I don't know what that taught me, but I think maybe something like get knocked down, get up and go back to work. Then I worked at a bowling alley as a waiter for one summer, covering for my younger brothers. He went off to Europe for the summer. I came back from college and waited tables in a bowling alley for 3 months. And then I went from there to cook on our campus. I cooked for the college for essentially 2 years. My freshman and sophomore year, 25 hours a week was what was required of me. And then my junior year, I started work for the data center, and I did that my junior year, the summer between my junior and senior year, and my senior year. So I had kind of a real job at that point. And then the end of my senior year, they actually asked me to go be a 5th grade teacher for technology. So I actually went down to the 5th grade of the local elementary schools around my college and taught kids how to use computers. It seems stupid today, but trust me, in 1985, 1986, most kids weren't touching computers yet. So the other thing that time of year, that time of my life taught me was to be competitive and to be a leader. And so I did things like president of my youth group at my church, both for junior high and high school. Even in the band, I was first chair trumpet all 3 years in high school. I was drum major of the marching band, if you can believe that. That got me into all the parades and all the football games and things like that. So it sounds awfully geeky when I'm speaking to a car channel about drum major. And I was captain of my cross-country and track teams, both in high school and college, so I just had this competitive urge all the time. I just felt it inside me. I had a 396 coming out of high school, and that was before all these AP classes and 5.0 scales. This was just basic ABC grades. Gosh, and then the last one, I was climbing Mount Rainier. It was a lifetime goal of mine from when I was a little kid till I was about 15 to climb Mount Rainier. You can't climb it until you're 15, so I climbed it this summer and I turned 15. And I've been up at maybe 15 or 20 times over the last, you know, really from, you know, 1983 or 4, not even before that, 1979 maybe, to, you know, up until I left Seattle in 1991. And so all those things, that's just another part of my life where I was just competitive, and I just felt I needed to do leadership to get myself to where I wanted to be in life. So the last part of this, God, we're already at 13 minutes. I'm sorry this is too long. But the last part of this conversation will be my exit, my escape, my salvation. I spent most of my junior and senior year in high school typing applications and really working the colleges. You know, just night after night on an old manual typewriter till 1 a.m. just doing application after application. Probably had about 20 schools working with me on applications and on financial aid. We even did CLEP tests, the college level examination tests, to prove that I, you know, was, you know, worthy of coming to their college. We did campus visits, did most of them on my own or with my friends. And you know, just the option here, or the lesson here, the second life lesson of this little video is, you know, failure's not an option. I mean, I just went into it, even at 17, 18 years old. Leaving this environment and getting to college was not, just failing to do that was not an option. I had to go and make this happen. Success was a foregone conclusion. I was going somewhere other than the local community college. I was getting out. And eventually I got accepted by pretty much every college that we applied to. I think I had 20 acceptance letters over that year. So I was able to choose several, had good financial aid packages for me. And I was able to choose the one I wanted, which was Pacific Lutheran University, PLU. My best friend from high school was going there. I thought it was the coolest campus. It was far enough away to be gone, but not so far away I couldn't get back and see my friends. So PLU, Tacoma, Washington, and spent the summer getting ready. And as we approach that Friday before Labor Day, 1982, greatest time of my life up until that time of my life. So on that Friday, the day before Labor Day weekend, where I actually got in my car and put everything I owned in my car and drove away, kind of for good, was literally the greatest feeling of my life up until that point. There's certainly been better days since then, but it probably still ranks in the top 10 days of my life. I was out, I was free, the world was my oyster. So guys, that's 15 minutes, that's probably too long, but that just kind of gives you a synopsis of the world I grew up in and kind of the 2 or 3 things I learned from it and my response to it. Hope it was not too disappointing. I hope it gives you some thoughts as if you're in that age range or that phase in your life. I hope this helps a little bit. Never use these things as an excuse. Poor home, tough childhood, very hard to get somewhere. Don't use any of that as an excuse. Move on and use it as a launching platform. Use it as motivation. Failure is not an option. Means that your success is a foregone conclusion. Guys, that's great. I can't believe that there's interest in this crap, but if there is, if it helps, I'm glad. The comments you've been giving me, I can't believe it, so thank you so much. And we'll move on and do the next piece. Give me some feedback. Let me know, and I'll use it to improve the next one, which will be my college years. That's it. Have a great Wednesday, or Thursday, sorry. Have a great Thursday. And maybe it'll stop raining and we'll get the truck video done right. That's it, you guys. Talk to you later. Bye.